Hi everyone, I'm back with the farm journals. I have 3 journals that I have just completed. 2 of them will be listed in my shop. I know I have said that I'm not doing custom orders or reservations anymore, but I had forgotten that I had already committed to making a farm journal out of this book way back in September, and then I forgot. So my customer graciously reminded me. She was very kind and not being impatient at all, and reminded me. And then when I found the images from the old design shop that I wanted to use, I was very excited because they're perfect for this title, Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm. So I'm going to save that one for last, since this one is not going to be in the shop. They are all extremely similar, so it doesn't really matter which one I go through first. I'll just go through one in detail and the other ones quickly to show you any differences in them. So I think I'll start with this one. This is made from an old vintage. That's redundant, isn't it? Old and vintage. It's made from a vintage book cover. Green fabric cover with some leather corners and leather spine. The corners are definitely frayed, distressed, and I liked the color of this for a farm journal, and the distressed look. You can even see where it must have been blocked by something here, and this part got faded, and I like that. Even the leather is faded there. I used the sunflower fabric, and that came off of this table runner that I had gotten at a flea market. I don't think it's very old, but it was a table runner that someone had made with cross stitch in the center. I took the back of it off, or some of it. I cut it open and then tore a strip off of it that I could use for binding. And I used a corner of it to put on the cover of the other book, which I'll show you. Oh, it's actually on this book. So this is the corner of that piece. This one is tied with coffee dyed muslin. There's a little bit of this pretty vintage ribbon there, and this antique lace on the spine. There are 3 signatures. I'll have to count the pages. Let me just show you real quick some of the vintage items that I used in these books. I have some vintage bottle caps that I found at a flea market, and I put at least 1 or 2 in each book. I got these milk coupons, 1 pint of milk. They're so cute, a little green cow. So I used some of them. Fruit jar markers, stickers, Utica Trust and Deposit Company. So this was a gift from a bank in Utica, New York. A lot of them are stuck together, but I think this was in a box full of handwritten recipes and stuff like that. So I did use several of these in each book. And I used vintage household labels. I love these red ones, and so there's some of them in the book and some with a slightly different border in each book. These, I use the real things. The old design shop actually has a page of the same labels. Let me show you. It's this with these designs. And I bought that page. So you can buy them from the old design shop and print them. And then I found my very own vintage ones. So I think that's all I wanted to show you as far as vintage goes. So let's just get into the book. This is from TLC Creates Vintage on Etsy. And I printed 4 to a page to get that size. And I like that checkerboard pattern with this. The paper pack that I used is the Blue Barn by Paper Studio from Hobby Lobby. I don't think it's available anymore because I'm quite sure I bought it when it was on clearance. This is from the old design shop. So the items that I use from the old design shop are the vintage farm ephemera pack, or digital kit or something. It's not pages, it's ephemera, so this is part of it and this is part of it. Any of the black and white images are part of that, and I printed them on cream cardstock. And so I cut around the milk pail and glued it to some cardstock and then just stitched on some black rickrack. This is one of my vintage labels, and this is vintage lace on the edge here. I did some stenciling and some stamping on the pages. This bottle has lightning bugs in it. And this was a really fun activity to do out in the country. I talked about when I was doing a process video on this, I talked about some of my memories of living out in the country on a farm. And I didn't mention catching lightning bugs, but we had a big front yard to play in, and we played tag and blind man's bluff and catching lightning bugs. We did all kinds of stuff out there. Here's a cluster with some vintage V-tack fabric, and this is from Ooh La La Crafts. This is a strip that you can buy of different vegetables, and then just a little piece of lace and some eyelash. I printed this one large. Is it the same as this? Yeah, it's the same picture. I just printed it large, so it's page size, and I used it as a page. I printed it on cream paper. There's a farmhouse that I stamped. This was a vintage piece of fabric. You'll see a lot of this in all of the books. It's got pictures of farms and barns and even a little schoolhouse. Some braided, kind of like, I don't know what it is, but it looks country, and a little piece of doily. And there's one of the milk bottle caps. This is a piece of burlap that had the stitching in it, and there's some frayed. I'm not sure what that fabric is called. Kind of like a feed sack fabric. It's got a very loose weave. And then this printed fabric. All that came together on a roll. I got that at a flea market. And then this is one of Old Design Shop's country or farm flashcards. So I just inked around it. And there's one of the vintage stickers. Look at that cute image. So these are the images I got from the Old Design Shop. These are sold individually. They're by an artist called C.M. Bird, B-U-R-D. And I just love these images with the children and the farm animals. I just thought it was perfect for the Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm theme. So all three of these journals got those images. There's an old Stampin' Up! Stamp there. Raspberries or blackberries. And I see I was going to cover that up and I didn't. So I'm going to do that now. I have my washi tape. It's the Nordic Wear emblem that was imprinted on my paper when I did the copy dyeing. So you can just write around it. Adds a little more element of decoration. This is a page that I put in the center of the signature, and then after I sewed the signature in, I glued it together so that it's a pocket. And this is a sheet of these little tags, and I don't remember where they're from. They might be from Nostalgic Graphic Land, but I can't remember. I've had them for quite some time. And I just put on a little scrap of the farm paper there. And this is a leftover piece of paper that I made into a tag that you can open up and write on. And then put this tag on there, which I don't remember where I got that tag either. And on this page is some copy dyed dot grid paper. And I just put several sheets, well, it's 2 sheets folded together, and sewed this gingham ribbon at the top and just sewed it down to the page, and then stapled a piece of the Ooh La La ribbon, fabric ribbon there. And this was punched out of a book, Oh Pioneers by Willa Cather. Each of the chapters had a different weather vane illustration, so I just punched them out to use, and there is one of the individual illustrations that you can get from the Old Design Shop. This is a piece of vintage feedsack fabric, and it was cut in this odd shape, and I left it that way. Very vintage piece of crochet, and this is vintage lace that I coffee dyed because it was stained. There's one of the little milk coupons. Someone sent me this fabric, which I thought was adorable. And there's a piece of lace that's not vintage. Here is a tree with a swing in it. We had a tree in our yard that was perfect. It always had a rope swing in it. And boy, did we spend a lot of time on that swing and pushing each other on that swing. That was so much fun. Some stamping here. Another piece of the Ooh La La ribbon and just a piece of paper for writing on. Second signature. This is an illustration from a children's reader. I wanted a black and white illustration so it wouldn't compete with all the colors of that paper in the background. And there's shearing sheep here. And here's one of the old design shop images. The children feeding the geese. There's another stamp up there. And a cluster here. This is vintage fabric back here. One of the old design shop images that I printed out big. There's a stamp, an old Stampin' Up! Stamp of a rooster. There's that fabric again. There's one of the fruit jar labels. This was a ribbon. It's like a fabric ribbon that has stiffener on it that someone sent to me. I'm thinking it was Sarah, but I'm not sure. And there's one of the images, and this is from that one sheet that I showed you. I left this go all the way across the page, most of the way across the page, so there's a partial pocket on the other side of this. There's sunflowers. It's from the same stamp set as the rooster. This is a scrap of paper that I folded, and it's got another illustration from a children's reader, and it's got a collie. I grew up with collies. Love collies. And it goes inside there. And this is from Old Design Shop, and I just fussy cut it out. And then this is one of the individual images. And it is so sweet. This little girl is drinking a cup of fresh milk, and the cow is watching. So I thought that this bucket and the word cream all fit together. This one has a belly band on it, and I just took some graph paper again and folded it together with a piece of paper. And there's a little definition of the word farm, and this is also the Old Design Shop. I printed it, I think 32 to a page, and it turned out smaller than I thought it would, but it makes a cute little embellishment. Next time I'll print less to a page. I think the next option though is 9, so it would be quite a bit bigger than that. Some feedsack fabric on the edge there. Here's the other side of that ribbon with a couple of flashcards and another label. This was from an old tablecloth, and there are lots of farm images on this tablecloth, so I used the barn here with the windmill and the weather vane there and a piece of gingham ribbon. There's some stenciling there. I thought it looked like the rays of the sun on the farm. This is actually from, here's another vintage piece, from a farm cash account book from 1950. That's what it looks like. And I cut this piece to be a journaling spot. I had cut pages of it. Maybe it's not in this book. I don't know. But there are pages of that in some of these books. Maybe it's in this signature. There's a little girl feeding the lambs. There's another illustration from a children's book of some children riding a horse. There's the back end of the pig. And there's another piece of that tablecloth with an apple tree. There's a page from that farm account book. I love this green ticking, and it came from that Paper Studio pad, as did this paper. This is a piece of fabric back here. I love that check with this. And these children are feeding the chickens and a turkey. And there's another stamp with a swing in a tree. Oh, I think I better change that one out. We have two of them right together there. I'll do this one with the little girl with the cup of milk again. This one again is a milk pail that I cut out, and I remember these from my father's and my grandfather's barns. Ours didn't look like that. There's two different styles of milk pails in this digital kit, and the other one looked more like ours. This one looks more old-fashioned, I think. And there's a girl feeding the calf. Blatchford's calf meal. And it says butter up there, one of the labels. Here's the other side of that farm journal, and it says egg sales here. And there's milk sales with some writing. I like the way this got marked up from the paper toweling. And someone sent me this strip of sunflower fabric. And this is one of the individual images of the Jersey cow. In the other part of that ledger. And there is a sticker. I was going to show them to you. Here they are. I have a whole bunch of Denison stickers. Vintage. Well, this one's Eureka, and this one is Denison. And I found my farm animal and domestic animal seals, so I was able to use some of them in these books. So there's a rooster. Okay, so there's that one. And I will quickly go through this one. This one I'm just going to call lambs, because this one has the lambs on the front. And this one will be calves. And it's got two little girls feeding the calves. And I used just some, this is a Reader's Digest book. And I used some copy dyed paper behind it, and a vintage label and a vintage milk cap. The sunflower fabric again. I just finished sewing this one together before I started this video, so I didn't put the lace on the spine yet, but I will. I also didn't glue the pockets in the center together. So it's pretty much the same. I'm just going to point out any differences that there might be. So this will be glued together. There's a little tablet. This is a illustration from the book, children's book. Gotta cover that up too, where it says Nordic wear. Beatsack fabric. These were really fun to make. There's a little schoolhouse on that fabric. I really want to make myself, there's the vintage farm account book, a farm journal, since I grew up on a farm. There's a little boy with some bunnies. But I was thinking that I would make mine more like a farm kitchen journal, but I just fell in love with those beautiful images of the children, so I might have to make two for myself. But not yet. So I used the little girl again with the bucket and the cream. This is where I covered up Nordic wear there. Again, a little booklet with the farm definition. This is very distressed paper, grungy paper. It's, I think it was graph paper, so it's thinner, but it doesn't look like graph paper anymore because all the lines washed off. But it was left to dry on already sodden paper towels, so it looks very grungy. I like it. I think I covered up Nordic wear here with this little strip of fabric. which is vintage fabric, and this is feedsack fabric. There's lots of fun stuff in these. There's a piece of vintage trim up there. There's a rooster sticker. Children are throwing hay at each other. It says butter. That blends right into the paper. And I love this paper. It came from that Paper Studios paper pack, and these are the kind of handles that my grandmother had on her farmhouse kitchen drawers, except her drawers were painted white, and I think her handles were this color, but the drawers were white. But I love that. So I just cut out 2 drawer sections to make the pocket, and then it has a journaling card inside, and this will be glued together. And I used the word farmhouse. Some sheep, the girl and the milk can again, and there's baking. There's some, I don't know, maybe some dough there, and I don't know what it's supposed to be, but it's from that old tablecloth. Alright, so these 2, sheep and calves, I'll call this one lambs because they're lambs. Lambs and calves, these will be in my shop. And then this one is for a customer. And I'll just go through it quickly so she can see it. It's pretty much the same. But it has Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farms as the book. And I think I'll put some metal corners on the edges of this one because they're more worn. And I put the title, part of the title page here, and it says 1904, and it's a tag you can write on, just like the other ones, if you can open it. I didn't stick them back in there because I didn't want them to stick to the wet glue. But now they're dry. These are feedsack fabrics. Lots of grungy papers in here. If my camera shuts off suddenly, it's because my battery died. It's been flashing at me for a little bit. Here's the bottle cap. There's a country stove, wood-burning stove. Children in the barn looking out. There's a little pig from my stickers. This one has a bit of antique lace on it. There's a cow and calf. This says gooseberry. And a little pig. So, there we have it. 3 farm journals. These 2 will be listed in my shop on Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. That's Sunday, February 24th, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I live in Pennsylvania, USA. So 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sunday, February 24th. These 2 journals will be listed in my shop. Thank you so much for your support of my shop. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.